The arrow points to Oakland, California, and the sign says World Champs. But last week, the only bona fide world champions in Oakland were the A's, a baseball team. And the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFL had traveled the width of this nation with one idea: to make sure that the people of Oakland, in a single year, would not be able to lay grandiose claim to the title of world champion in both of America's most honored sports. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, the journey had been much lengthier than just across the country. For almost 4 decades, the Steelers had lain as doormats before NFL powerhouses until last year, when the men of steel had shed their mild-mannered Clark Kent ways and climbed over the Oakland Raiders into the American Conference Championship game. And now, for the second year in a row, the Pittsburgh Steelers had earned the right to vie for all the honor in the pro football world. And for the second year in a row, the Steelers' first challenge in the Super Series would be the Oakland Raiders. If Oakland fans appeared to be blowing their own horn prematurely, their pride was understandable. For in 6 of the past 7 seasons, the Silver and Black had earned a berth in the playoffs. But though the attitude of the Raiders and their fans seemed to be one of confidence, there must have been some doubts. For while the Raiders were Western Division champions, the Steelers, as the wild card team in the playoffs, actually had the better record for 1973, and Pittsburgh had defeated Oakland in each of their past 3 meetings. Prior to the game, the Raiders had stated that if they were to score against Pittsburgh, it would have to be with defense and special teams, because they felt it was impossible to dent the steel curtain with sustained drives. But in their very first possession, the Raiders went to ball control tactics, and this 20-yard sweep by Marv Hubbard showed just how clearly Oakland had taken control of the line of scrimmage. Grinding out yardage in sizable chunks, the Raiders ate up almost 10 minutes of the first quarter, accomplishing what they themselves had called the impossible. And on the 16th play, Marv Hubbard smashed the final yard, capping an 82-yard drive to give the Raiders a 7-0 advantage. Unable to establish a running game, Terry Bradshaw got the Steelers moving late in the period when he hit Dave Williams for this 14-yard gain into Oakland territory. But 2 plays later, number 60, Otis Sistrunk, deflected this Bradshaw aerial, and Oakland's Phil Villapiano caught it on the carom to end the Steelers' advance. Beginning the second quarter, Kenny Stabler dumped this pass to Mike Siene for a 21-yard gain to the Pittsburgh 35-yard line. But the Oakland offensive ended when Kenny Stabler was trapped for a 10-yard loss, and the Raiders had to settle for a 10-0 edge after a 25-yard field goal by George Blanda. Having been held in check for more than 25 minutes, Terry Bradshaw finally got the Pittsburgh attack in gear with this good throw for 24 yards to Preston Pearson. Aided by a roughing penalty, Pittsburgh penetrated the Raiders' 10, and then Bradshaw hit Barry Pearson with this pass, putting the Steelers on the board with 2 minutes remaining in the first half. A repeat shows that Pearson appears to be guided out of bounds shy of the end zone, but the official ruled that he did break that imaginary pane of glass. The Raiders' lead was narrowed to 10-7, wiping out the significance of most of Oakland's first half heroics. Although the Raiders were the dominant team for most of the first 30 minutes, rolling up 10 first downs to Pittsburgh's 5 and rushing for 105 yards while holding the Steelers to a mere 34 net yards on the ground, the Silver and Black had relatively little to show for their efforts on the scoreboard, and it appeared that Pittsburgh had weathered a rocky start. Beginning the third quarter, Kenny Stabler moved the Raiders into field goal range the first 2 times Oakland owned the football. And George Blanda paid off those efforts with field goals of 31 and 22 yards, boosting the Raiders' lead to 16-7. But no terminal harm had been done to the Steelers' cause, and then lightning struck in the form of Willie Brown. Eschewing the running game and going up top to get the Steelers moving, Terry Bradshaw aimed a pass for Preston Pearson, but Willie Brown, making the play of the day, stepped into action and returned the stolen football 54 yards for a 23-7 advantage. A repeat of the play shows that the confident Oakland cornerback was playing the ball and not the man, and his gamble paid off when Bradshaw's throw was slightly underneath its target. An isolated look at Brown on the play prior to his interception shows that Bradshaw had sent number 83, Barry Pearson, by Brown to draw the Raiders' corner out of the flat area. But on the next play, never taking his eyes off the quarterback, Willie Brown refused to pick up Pearson and played the ball instead. Brown's game-breaking play left Terry Bradshaw with no other option but to throw. And following the ensuing kickoff, 2 plays later, Bradshaw put the ball again in the air with the same result. A repeat of the play shows that Bradshaw overshot his intended receiver, Frank Lewis, and that the Raiders' number 43, George Atkinson, playing deep like a center fielder, picked the ball off easily. Number 23, Charlie Smith, then swept left for 40 yards deep into Steeler territory. But the Raiders could not push it across, and at the top of the 4th quarter, George Blanda booted a 10-yarder, making good on his 4th field goal of the day. Blanda's boot made the score 26-7, and Pittsburgh looked beaten embarrassingly early as the Raiders' hungry defenders swarmed all over the Pittsburgh attack. But showing the resilience that characterizes good football teams, the Steelers stubbornly tightened up their pucker straps and began to move the football for all the glory it would bring. Using number 33, Frenchy Fuqua, primarily, the Steelers began to slice away sizable gains, showing the class that carried them through the difficult season and into the playoffs. At length, faced with 3rd and 25 at the Raiders' 26, Bradshaw stepped out of the pocket and found Frank Lewis with position on George Atkinson. Lewis's catch made the score Oakland 26, Pittsburgh 14 with 9:05 remaining. But whatever thoughts the Steelers might have had of a miracle finish were soon put to rest. With Marv Hubbard doing most of the work, the Raiders ended the day the way they began it, blowing the mighty Steel Curtain defenders right off the line of scrimmage. As the Steelers coach Chuck Noll was to say later, Willie Brown's interception was the key play, but no one play ever beats you. They beat hell out of us all day on every play. They blew us out. With 35 seconds remaining, Marv Hubbard gained his 91st yard for the day, smashing over to give Oakland a very satisfying 33-14 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, keeping alive the grandiose dream in Oakland of double, dynastic domination in professional football and Major League Baseball. But this was a day for the silver and black, a day struck with pride and poise, like the California sunset which served only to remind the Oakland Raiders of their upcoming date in Miami.